Welcome back to the Common Message podcast. We're been 2 weeks off. Jonathan, 2 weeks ago had a lot going on, and I was out of town the week after that. And so we have been on a little hiatus. So if we're a little rusty, that is why. But we are back, and we're excited to talk and continue on. Yesterday, we both preached on Philippians chapter 3, part of our Common Joy series that we've been in. And man, I really like this beginning of the chapter, Paul. I mean, the whole book has been, the whole letter to the
Incredible.
Church of Philippi is awesome. And of course, we've been really highlighting that theme of joy, but there's so much good stuff kind of going on here, especially in chapter 3. Jonathan, I want to hear from you first. We haven't talked about what each either has preached on or kind of what we hit on with this topic. So just share with me, what did you hit on this week?
I mean, we talk about goals in life, pursuing goals is a constant activity, especially at the beginning of the year, which is,
Sure.
this year I'm going to the gym, this year I can start my diet or whatever it is. And sometimes we have those goals on a spiritual level. Like, I'm going to pray more, I'm going to read the Bible more,
Yeah.
that is spiritual. But
Yeah.
the majority of the goals in our lives are materialistic,
Okay.
It's like, this year I'm going to buy that car, I'm going to go this place, or I'm going to do these things. And goals are part of the dreams of people's lives. All the time we're dreaming and thinking, what's my goal? What I'm going to reach this year. And we were talking about Paul's goals and how he reordered those ideas in terms of what we had in the past. So I'm pretty sure that Saul had a different goals in his life based on his capacities and what he presents himself. And then how that changed when he knew Christ, and that's exactly what we talked this week is how our goals are shaped when we really know Jesus Christ and we really reorder those ideas and we reorganize what is really worth of investing time, effort, and what it takes or it loses, let's say importance, or what I'm spending so much time in something that is really not my life's goal. So we talk about that this week. It was great to see something applicable, and
I mean, that's definitely, I mean, you talk about those verses where he's labeling all his great achievements that he could boast about, but he says, man, I consider them garbage for the sake of Christ. And you can tell something has gone on in Paul's life that has drastically changed him at his very core. And we kind of talked about the same thing kind of from a different framework. So we kind of took that first part where he's like, watch out for those dogs, those evildoers, and he's talking about this group of Jewish Christians that's trying to impose the practice of circumcision on these Gentile believers. And what I think Paul's kind of doing is he's saying like, I think he's almost criticizing them because they're so worried about this physical act, which again, in Jewish history and tradition is super important, right? But he's like, you guys have made everything about something that's on the outside and very, very fleshly, a very surface level. And then he goes into his transformation story that you were going to talk about. And it's this interior change, a change of goals, like you mentioned, a change of desires and values and ambitions. And so that was kind of my bottom line is how Jesus changes from the inside out.
And something that we really related to what you just said, in terms of culture, the Jewish were trying to impose that in their community, but also it relates to some of the Latin culture that we are in as a Hispanic culture, especially living in Mexico for a few years. I was doing missions for about 10 years in Mexico. I experienced firsthand what it means to sacrifice something physically. So I learned people that walk, and their knees for miles to pay a penitence or something that they really want to be forgiven for something, or they really want their work or the economy or whatever their lands to produce more. So they are bringing their offerings in their sacrificial way,
Okay.
hitting their bodies and destroying themselves just to be able to connect with God. And we were talking about that yesterday because it seems like this message of is in my hands. The love of God, it depends on me and my sacrificial body is an opposite message. But also we went to the other part that's saying that I don't have to do anything
Yeah.
and I just gotta relax and not doing anything is not, it's a wrong message. And
Yeah.
Paul is in Yale because of his convictions,
Hmm.
but he's also recognizing that, you know, circumcision and all of that and all of these practices are now gonna get you closer to God. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's so we talked about is like I think sometimes, at least in my upbringing, is the first thing we talked about that was transforming Paul was his confidence.
yeah.
And there's that verse about how I boast in Jesus, but I don't boast in the flesh.
Hmm.
He's like, but if I was to boast about the flesh,
Yeah.
here's the long list I could boast about, right?
Sure.
But like I think part of that is like I think sometimes in our church environment we can have a pride of or a self-righteousness about our church attendance
Hmm.
or the clothes that we wear
Hmm.
or the words that we know, how much we know about the Bible, verse, and all those things. And don't get me wrong, like are good things.
That's
At the
correct.
core, most of them are.
Yeah.
But that when that alone becomes your religion, like
Yeah.
or in their context, when circumcision alone is your religion,
Yeah.
and you don't know Christ, like what he's talking about, like that knowing of
Yeah.
I want to be like him in his
Hmm.
resurrection and his sufferings and in his death, like
Hmm.
that's a different level. That's an internal changes that
Yeah.
happen. And that's kind of where I start is I think we have a human tendency to be very just changed at the surface level without allowing Jesus to do the hard work of transformation within us.
Hmm.
And I think that's what Paul's getting to in his own example of my life is like, look at me, like the things I used to value, I don't value anymore.
No.
My values have changed. My desires
Mhm.
have changed. And I think sometimes we need to look at our lives as Christians and think, okay,
Mm.
sometimes we're more like those Jews that like to oppose things on other people that are just
Sure.
physical changes.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have maybe we even thought like, yeah, maybe they need to wear something different to church,
Yeah.
or man, their language needs to be better,
Hmm.
or what if they just did this? Then they're now a part of us. I mean,
That's
I
true.
think sometimes we can find ourselves really maybe more so in their shoes than in Paul's shoes.
That's true.
And I think that's important to think about.
Yeah. I think it's taking care of the internal, uh, more than the external. Because I think the evidence of the love of Christ is not dependent on my external
Yeah.
achievements.
Hmm.
The real relationship with the Lord and others will come from what is transforming our hearts
Yeah.
because we're gonna break those barriers, language barriers, cultural barriers.
Yeah.
We're gonna see people as people, and more than what are you, what you believe, and then we can
Yeah.
connect. So I think the Apostle Paul is doing this in a
Yeah.
powerful way.
Yeah. And here's the reality. Like, if Paul's already said it, like if it's
Yeah.
based upon his deeds and righteousness, he's not getting in. And let me tell all of you, if it's based on if Paul's not getting in, we're not getting in if
No.
that's what it's about.
Yeah.
But Paul realized, hey, all that's garbage because that's not what it's
It's
about.
incredible.
It's like it's about knowing God, and
Yeah.
I'm going to get in because I know Him,
Yeah.
and He knows me,
Yeah.
and we all have that too. Like we're all heirs of the same throne, and so I think that's important for us to know is man, the reality, and Jesus talks about this when he's talking to the Pharisees in Matthew 23, like the outside needs to come because of what's going on inside.
That's correct.
If we're like whitewashed tombs, right? If we're the dishes that are on the outside clean but are full of greediness and unrighteousness, like there's no value in that,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And church members can look like that
Yeah.
sometimes. All of us can. And parts of me have looked like that at times.
And I think it's talking with the brothers and even making a couple questions there. It's incredible how Jesus Christ can shape your whole life. It's not only for Sunday morning. It's about priorities and it's about giving value to things that really are maybe more valuable for some others now. So just um, being grateful for what we have and instead of complaining for what we don't have,
Yep.
that's a value in
Yeah.
Christ because you're not pursuing things and in a desperate way because seems like hey, I have what I need. I'm grateful for what I have, and he will provide what I need. And I'm gonna be working what I have. But just shifting that, just seeing things in that way, is a Christ thing.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think one of the biggest fruits of knowing you're being transformed from the inside out is starting to recognize, like Paul did,
Yeah.
that the things I value are starting to shift.
Yeah.
They're starting to more align with the things Jesus valued.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden humility is a big deal,
Yeah.
and service
Yes.
and looking out for the interests of others before myself. Like when you see those things become natural to you, man, that's the spirit working
Spirit
within you
working.
from the inside
Yeah.
out. I think that's important. Now, I had a question for you, and I didn't
Yeah.
ask John this beforehand. So going back to those Jewish group that was trying to oppose circumcision, and maybe there's a cultural even example, but what do you think is something that we see in the church today? Is there something that we try to oppose on people that's a very physical thing that we almost make too big of a deal of? What is that for you?
Well,
Or is
uh,
there an example? I know I kind of put you on the spot.
yeah, no, I think it's great. I think we have many practices that, depending on the church, every church
Yeah.
has different practices, and but I think we sometimes are more focused on what happens Sunday morning.
Yeah.
You
That's a
know,
good point.
I'm not speaking in our own church only, but generally, seems like we reduce the Christian life to Sunday morning, and seems like the practices what that we do on during Sunday morning, then an hour and a half, seems like we value that more than sometimes going and preach and talk to someone,
Yeah.
or pray for other people, or maybe be involved in a group that I shouldn't be involved. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing talking to that people? So I think practices sometimes tends to invalidate,
Mhm.
or reduce the relationship that it's offered and available.
Yeah.
So, um, just as an example, the lack of connection with some people during the week, uh, at the same times impact directly the lack of evangelism.
Yeah.
And the result of that is lack of growing in the church. So being focused on just one practice at the same time is reducing the group to a point of not growing in any aspect,
Yeah.
relationship and
Yeah.
numbers. So I think for me is understanding that what happened on Sunday morning is the result of the week and not the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. My hopefully it's not too controversial, but I think one thing, and again, this isn't saying this thing isn't important, but I think it's sometimes we focus just on one aspect of
Mhm.
something, we make it too much, and we're missing the other part. And so,
Right.
just like circumcision was a physical act that served a huge purpose, especially in the old covenant,
Yeah.
but I think the one thing we do sometimes is with baptism.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, yeah, baptism is a physical act, and there's a spiritual reality with it. And
Yeah.
I believe the Bible teaches baptism. Don't
Mhm.
don't make this out to that.
Yeah.
But I think if we can make sometimes that at least in my upbringing, we can make baptism everything.
Yeah.
And if baptism is everything, you're just working to that one goal, and you're missing
Yeah.
the inner transformation that Paul's talking about
That's
in
true.
this moment. And if we get someone baptized, but they're never truly transformed at a heart level,
Yeah.
what do we, what I'm saying? So we're
That's
still
true.
missing the task. So I think
Mhm.
I think sometimes, not the same exact level of circumcision, but I think sometimes we can almost do what they were doing with baptism if we
Yeah.
make it everything.
That's true.
And so I think we have to be cautious of that, and make sure, man, people are being changed at their core. The goal is to be conformed to the image of Christ.
That's true.
And Paul's even saying, "Hey, I'm not there yet." That's what he
Yeah.
says in the chapter.
No.
Like I still haven't obtained this goal, but that's my desire. I want to know Christ. I think it's Verse 10 where he's saying that I want to know Christ. That's the ultimate goal. So. I was kind of hoping, for those of you that are watching this, they're in various type of life groups. I was kind of hoping that may come up in some of y'all's discussion. If you did,
Mhm.
please reach out and tell me your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, thanks for your words on this week.
Absolutely.
Any last things you want to share?
Yeah, I think it's impressive. You just mentioned about it. Paul said, "I'm not there yet,"
Mhm.
and I was like, "If you don't, who is there
Yeah,
yet?"
yeah, yeah,
It's incredible, and it's exciting to see that happening. But it connects with last week or last few couple weeks sermon it was related to, for me, living is Christ,
Yeah. To die is
and
gain.
die is gain. So Paul seems like Paul has his purpose so clear in his mind. And he said, it's clear there. I'm not there yet,
Yeah.
but it's clear where I'm heading to. And
Yeah.
that was my last message to the group yesterday. When you are looking for clarity or understanding your purpose in life, God has one for you. And when you are lost and seems like your life is purposeless, Jesus Christ has a purpose for you.
Yeah.
And whether you are at the top of the uh, list of authority and recognition, or
Yeah.
you're just someone that is trying to work for the day, what he has a purpose for you. So I think my last message is in this topic is when we find Christ, we find purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be a cliche, we might
That's
hear
a
this,
great point.
but but that affects and touch every part of our life. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, like there at the end, he used that phrase, I continue to press on.
yeah,
And kind of reading in context, you're thinking like, oh man, you've done 3 very successful missionary journeys. You've been now in this long legal process. Like you could just throw in the towel and you've lived a great life. He's like,
yeah.
oh,
No,
if I'm still alive, this is what I'm doing because
it's
it's
just,
who I am, right?
it's incredible.
And so, yeah, I do think, man, I think that's a great message for some people that are in hard circumstances
Yeah,
to remember, no, you have a purpose
yeah,
no matter where you're at,
yeah.
no matter your age. I think sometimes Christians think, oh, what am I still alive for? No, if you are breathing, you have a
You have
purpose.
purpose.
If Paul it embodies that in a really cool way. So
Yeah.
I think that's a great message to kind of wrap up with. Thank you guys for following along with us. We'll
Thank
jump
you.
back next week. Thanks for bearing with us in our
Yeah.
2 week sabbatical there, but we hope to
Your patience.
continue on in some consistency moving forward. But I hope this blesses you, and we hope to talk to you again soon.
Yes. God bless.
God bless.